Okay, so what I want to do is we've got a little rigging problem here. There's kind of a IKFK switching thing going on here, and there's problems with the fingers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to find a way to fix these fingers. The problem in this case here lies in, if we use the hypergraph here, I can hunt around, and I'll just go in and find the hand. And if I find this hand has got a bunch of constraints on it. Here, I'll just frame these things. So what do we got? There is a hand control, so there's the object there, and then we've got these fingers, and there's a group for them. And here, I'll just put on any kind of tool here, and it looks like the move tool is way down there, so it's showing us the pivot's way down there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unparent this thing. And what is it? We got this weird thing where the elbow control is being parented to the hand control. This one, I'm just going to move this over here. Peek. So now it's off of there. Okay, and we still got the hand control here. And then what I'm going to do is we take a look up at this bunch here. Now all these things have constraints on them. Actually, sorry, their constraints are, there's the fingers group, and then there's the finger, and it's got a set-driven key on it of some kind, and there's another one here and there. I'm just going to hide the geometry, and I'm just going to make the skeleton so it's unreferenced and so I can see the skeleton. Okay, now these joints here have all got parent constraints on them and stuff. So if I take a look, you'll see there's my palm joint in here, and then I've got a bunch of these joints, and then down here you can see their constraints. We're going to get rid of these constraints. These constraints here are constraining the translate and rotate, and also they got maintain offset on, so they're causing a lot of havoc. So I'm just going to get rid of them. And boop. Working my way down here. And you can see the nodes, to the little icons on them, so you can tell they're parent constraints right away. And there's some more. Okay. And there's a wrist orient constraint. That's fine, because that's part of the hand control. And if I brought back the geometry right now, we just checked it out and made sure I'm not lying. I move this up, and then I check this IKFK switch. Bloop. There's something funny in there. It actually might be... I'll come back to that one. I'll take a look at that one. I'll pause after I figure out the fingers. I wonder if this wrist orient constraint... Okay, I looked at this earlier and I thought I figured it out, and maybe I've forgotten what I did. Okay, so let's push this up here, hide the geometry again. So all these fingers and these controllers that are here, they may cause problems. And those constraints were troublesome. So let's go to this finger here. So this is the index. I'm going to take these controllers, I'll just move them over here. And what I want to do is, because there's this constraint that's kind of constraining it, and then there's set-driven keys on it at the same time. What would be more effective is if you want set-driven keys on it, which are already here, you can see them sitting right here. I'd like to have a few more pivot points that I can control with these other controllers here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first off, to keep these set-driven keys on here, I'm going to do something really tricky here with these joints. If I take this joint right here, and if I did something like here, I'll show it as I'm doing it. If I hit Control G on it, we get a problem. We want to put a group on top of it, but it goes right to the palm bone in here, so I'm not going to do that. If I take this one and I put a group on it, look, the group goes right to the parent joint, and it's also got the same orientation as the joint. Usually if I put on the scale tool usually lines up with the axis of the joint. The move tool is usually lined up with the world, so it doesn't look right. Okay, so I got this group in here. Now this is going to be screwy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the group, I'm going to parent it to the palm bone. I'm middle clicking dragging, so I moved it there. So I can take the index and I can bring it down and make it a child of the group. Remember, the group and the index have the same orientation. Then what I can do is I can take this joint and pop it back onto here. So now the joints are lined up again with this group on top, which has the exact same orientation. I could do this a number of ways. This is how I chose to do it. Just because it's fast and simple. I hope it's simple. I'm going to take this joint. Let's go up one. The reason I'm doing this is I have to do it in this funny order is if I put the pivot points for these anywhere else, I'll have some issues. So we got that one covered. Then this one, we want to get an axis for that. So if I take this one and I go Control G, and I'll do the same to the one at the very tip, Control G, and I'm putting groups in. Now, what we need to do is take this one and make it a sibling first, and then we can take this and pull it down here, shuffle it around. There. So now those are in order. So there's this joint, and then there's a group. It's got the exact same orientation. Okay. And I'll do this again. This one, put the group there. Take this, parent it into the group. Take that joint, put it back. And I've just basically shuffled the order around. And so you see there's a group in here and all the way up to fingers. So now I can have two different controllers controlling the same joint. Okay, so I can have the set driven keys that are on this, so I can get my middle finger, actually not my middle finger, the index finger still works. Okay, and then this controller here, I rotate it. Now these ones don't work anymore because I got rid of all the constraints on them. Now, if I want this to control this joint right here, what I probably want, because we've already got this one controlling this, is I'd probably want it on here. So, if I take this controller in here, I'm just going to go up here, it's right here, I'm just going to unparent these things from each other. And they appear to have some kind of set-driven key on them too, so I'm just going to take those and I'm going to right-click and break connection. Gone. Okay, so now they're normal. And first thing I want to do here is I want to line this up so it's with the joint so it's perfectly lined up. You'll see that if I select this thing here and then I select the joint, they've got two different orientations. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the joint first, hold down Shift, and then I'm going to select the index control, and I'm going to go constrain, and I'll hit orient constrain, and I'm going to make sure the maintain offset is off. And now you can see it went over to its side. Okay, and I put a constraint on this. I don't want that constraint. I'm just using it to line up the joint, or line up the controller rather. And this gives me a bunch of dirty information right here. Now, I'm going to do something tricky. I'm going to take this controller, I'm going to make a duplicate. Okay? I'm going to take this, I'm going to parent the duplicate to this one, to the original one here. And actually, it's just, this one here is lindex control underscore dirty group. Okay, boop, there. And I can take the little icon that's on here and I can delete it. Woo! Now if I took this one, notice now, we've got all the dirty numbers are here. It's lined up with this joint perfectly. And this one, let's just go in here and I'd like it to be rotated. So I'm just going to hold down J and I'll rotate it up here. At 90 degrees. And then I'm going to freeze it out. When I freeze it out, it still has the same orientation. Let's go to the scale tool as that joint. And if I want to, what we can do is this joint here has, what is it? This joint has the set driven key on it already. Don't know why there's a couple of negative zeros, but whatever. It's got the set driven key on it. So what we want to do is we want to put this controller so it controls the group just above it. I'm just going to hit the arrow, and now I've selected the group above it. Oh, I hit the up arrow on my keyboard. Actually, let's do it over here so you can see what the hell I'm doing. So I went in, selected this joint, and then I wanted to select that group. You can either select it here, or I just hit the up arrow, and boop, goes to the group. Then I select this controller here, and I'm just going to basically the last object selected is the thing that's going to be constrained. So I could have selected the controller and then I could select the group here, or you can switch the order around here. So did that. And now if I go and do a constraint and I do an orient constraint, boom, this is now orient constraint to the little controller here. So when I select it and I move it, it works. Okay, just hit undo. Okay, and what time are we at here? 10 minutes to explain that. Okay, craziness. And then I want to do that to these other controllers here as well. These ones might have funny orientation issues. We'll see. These ones here, I guess I could do it this way. The other thing I can do is I could make it so I'm directly animating the joints themselves, but there. So anyway, these things are all set up, so let's just do it. So I do that process again. I'm going to select this controller. I'll make a quick duplicate. Okay, and with this this one here, we're just going to make sure, is it in the exact right spot? It is. Okay, so if I select the joint, and I select this controller, and I go constrain, oriento. Okay, so it's orient constrained correctly. I'm just going to delete that. I could probably even delete this shape node right away. Middle click, pop it on. Take this thing and I can freeze the transformations on it. And it's going to be lined up exactly with this joint. And then, let's see, this joint is right here. So I find the group. And there is the controller. Okay, and I should invert the order. So you could probably, like I said, you could find it here. I could go up and grab this thing and then hold down shift and grab that. It's the same thing. Constrain, orient, whoop, nothing should pop or twitch or freak out. And I can take this dirty group here and I can parent that to the controller. Boom. Okay, and we'll do this again. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to make a duplicate. And when I make that duplicate, I can go in, select this joint, select that, constrain, orient, so they're exactly the same. Take both those nodes, delete them. By the way, in options display I have shape hidden and underworld nodes on. Okay, take this puppy, park it there, freeze it out. And now if I select this and then I select that group, which I do believe is this one, just barely see them here. If I go into constrain, orient, now those controllers all work, and let's just double check and make sure I'm not lying. There, they're all parented together. So this one, whoop. Okay, that one works. This one here seems to be working, and sometimes you can even do the tricky thing where you grab all of them at the same time, and you can get a finger curl. So you can figure out how you want to do that. So these controllers are fixed. I'm just going to unparent these things. Okay, so there's this other group here for the finger base, and it's just not in the right spot. You want it right on the wrist here. So I'm just going to go D and V, pop it right there. So now it's popped on. And this thing, we really want to follow this joint around, this series of controllers. So if I just select the joint and I select the controller, if I go and I do a constrain, if you do a parent constrain, you could basically, it does both the orient and the point at the same time. I'd probably just turn off maintain offset while I'm doing it, because it can cause problemos. Okay, let's just close that down and see what happens. Either that or just do a point and orient separately. Do it either way. It's the same thing. And then I've got to make sure that, let's see, when I grab this thing, is it following along? Okay, so it looks like that group is oh, hold on a second, there's nothing on that group. So we've got it here. Got to take the index and parent it in. Oh, crap. Get it in the right spot. Make sure we're in this default position before I parent it in. Bloop. Nothing should freak out. Okay, so this finger still works. All those controllers work. Let's just double check here. When I take this thing and I rotate it, Fingers will follow along, nothing weird. Move this up. Okay, let's check the big one. If I go and I take the FKIK control, bloop. There's something funky going on. What is that lag in there? There's a little funny twitch. It's working, but I don't believe it's working. There's something off. Anyway, this is how the fingers work. I'm going to have to go back and take a look at this a bit more. What time are we at? This is the 15-minute mark, so I'm going to go back and I'll do this one again. I'll make a part 2. I'll stop this one here.